Welcome to my designer class. My name is Mercy and I sell Stampin' Up! Products. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this box for gifting cards and envelopes. So it has a belly band and I will also be showing that. So one quick thing is I did use a glue dot here, so it's somewhat repositionable, but the way belly bands are designed is you just slide them on and off. And so in this box, I have 4 cards in here and envelopes. So I put the envelopes at the end and then the cards. And this would make a really great birthday gift or Mother's Day gift, I think. So something to keep in mind. But I did keep these tabs. You could just cut them off because you do have the belly band. But I thought it actually kind of held it together a little better by keeping them. So that's how it goes. And then you just gently slide this back on. So I hope you will enjoy this tutorial. So we'll get started. All right, so first of all, this is using the Stampin' Up! Envelope punch board, and they have really cool, easy instructions here for making envelopes, which work great. Nothing wrong with that. They even include further instructions where they show select your card size and then your paper size, and then so forth. So they give a lot of tips, how you turn it 90 degrees, etc. But because we're going to modify this, I came up with a template because, you know, I love templates. And here's my template. So the first step is to line it up at 3.5, punch, score, and then line it up at 4.5, punch, score. So I will start with showing you how to do that. Okay, setting that aside, I will now bring in my good cardstock. That was just like scratch cardstock. And it's quite simple, this whole process. But one quick thing to keep in mind is this is a score little marker here, and I'll show you more about that. So I will go ahead and get started. So 3.5. And now I go ahead, get in here and score. Now it will kind of go off the end. Don't be too concerned about that. It doesn't have to be all the way to the end scoring. It would be nice, but this board is a little smaller. But we do need to be able to fit on enough. Have enough space in the end. And oh, I forgot to mention this is 9 by 9, this sheet. That's very important. You definitely want a square. So now we're going to come to 2, which is 4.5 by 5.5. But that said, you are actually using your little score marker here to judge where you punch and, you guessed it, score. So it's quite straightforward. And then you move it down 3/4 of an inch. So that would be approximately 5.5. But again, we're using this little score marker, so it's really not difficult to guesstimate that it's 3/4 inch more. Okay, so I hope that's understandable. This isn't terribly complicated. So now this measurement is much like the first one we did. So it's going to be a little hard. Like, you can't get it all the way down, but I'm not concerned about that. Just keep going. Don't worry. It all works out in the end. So, and then I just turn again. And now I'm again lining up with that little marker for the score. This is 4.5. So this is step 3. So we're doing, actually, or is it step 4? I'm not sure. Now I'm confusing myself. But the main thing is just keep doing this. Oh, now I got a little off track there, but it shouldn't matter too much. Just keep getting in, lining up your score mark and scoring. So that is what it should look like at this point. Now, the only thing left is to turn, and this is the waste that you get. So I'll just toss that, turn, and now go ahead, corner round all of your corners. And of course, this is very straightforward and not confusing even for me. So punch it in And I think that's all we need for the score board. All right, so the next step is to go ahead and burnish our edges, and then we will also be cutting out a little bit, but not a lot. You'd be surprised. So I'm just going to bring in my bone folder here and burnish these score lines. So it's pretty straightforward, but if you have a template, I really feel like that makes a lot of difference as far as like making sure you do not make any mistakes, because cardstock is expensive and we don't want to waste paper. So it can definitely keep you on track better. All right, so I'm just going ahead, burnishing these score lines. Here we go. And almost done with the burnishing. Now, here we have the paper, and what we want to do now is to go ahead and cut here and here. So I will do that, and just right on the score line. And it's important not to cut this direction. I just want to mention that. So you want the longer side. And next I'd like to go ahead and use tear and tape for this little bit part. And I also like using one of the DVD cases from your stamps. So I'll show you how that will help as well. Okay, so I am going to be attaching this to this part. So I'm just going ahead and adding some tear and tape. You could use glue for this part, but I prefer tear and tape because the glue takes a little bit of time to get it to dry, and it's just a little quicker, I think, to use the tear and tape here. So I will do the same over here. I really do like this box. This is very simple and a nice way to gift cards. It just kind of dresses it all up. And when we get to the belly band, I am going to do a stepped up version. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited to show you what I have in mind. Okay, so almost there. All right, so what I was saying is use a CD or a DVD case. So I just took my chamois out of this one. Ooh, it's got something on it. Sorry about that. Okay, it probably won't hurt anything. All right, so what I'm going to do here is just line up close, so it has some support, is basically what I'm doing. I'm just going to bring it in like that. And then same thing with this side. And just bring it up. So the next thing then, of course, is to go ahead and attach this. Now you could have the flaps this way, but I think it looks neater to have them in. And I will go ahead and use some of my liquid glue for this part. Just get a little bit in here. Don't use tons, but you definitely want enough to hold it. Okay. And we will go ahead. I do want it pretty square. I don't want, so you want to make sure that you aren't like sliding it in too far like I just did. So just kind of look at it, eyeball it a little bit. And you can use the DVD case to kind of help you too, guide. It's a little bit shallow to be perfect, but it works well and definitely helps with keeping on track. So there is the basic part of the box. Now I am going to go ahead and doctor this up. I could have actually, I probably should have done this a little bit differently here, but so I'm just going to go ahead, cut in here. I should have done this earlier. And I'm going to cut a wedge. And I'm going to cut a fair amount of wedge because it can be hard to get this in otherwise. So there's my little wedge. I'm going to cut, again, I could have cut this before attaching all this. It probably would have been a better step. but I think you get the idea. So another little wedge, which that one wasn't as deep, so I'll try to match it. And that looks pretty good to me. So we're just going to make sure the box works now. So you could just cut those little flaps off if you wanted, but as I was saying, I feel like it does kind of hold it together a little better. So that turned out really well. It's very simple when you're using this envelope punch board to get a really nice box. All right, so now the belly band. I'm going to bring in my DSP. Now I did say I was stepping it up, and the DSP is the Petal Promenade DSP, and I went ahead and backed it with my old olive cardstock, and I thought that would help step it up because layers always help, I think. And so I will next bring in this part. Now I kind of feel like this is more upright, the direction, but it is important to realize that you shouldn't get a directional paper DSP because one side in the front versus the back, one will be upside down. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it definitely does because this one side will bend around. But here are my dimensions for the belly band. It's 2 inches by 12 inches. Now I cut this a 1/4 inch bigger, I believe, or maybe it was even more than that. But you can see to mat it. And I scored it at 2 1/2, 3 1/4, 7 3/4, and 8 1/2. So I will go ahead and get started with that. So here's my 3 1/2. Oh, I'm sorry, 2 1/2. Good thing I read that again. Oh dear. You don't want to make a big boo-boo. That's why it helps to write it down, because sometimes our memories aren't so good with remembering those little details. And I'm going to score it pretty well. If you were just using straight DSP, you wouldn't have to, do that quite as vigorously. Okay, 7 3/4 for this one. And then the final one is 8 1/2. So we're adding a 3/4 of an inch between each one. Okay. So I will set my Stampin' trimmer aside. And this did not come out right. I think I did that one wrong. Yikes. Yeah. It should have been 8. Maybe I wrote it down wrong. I do apologize if I did. 8 1/2, yeah. So where did I go wrong? 7 3/4, okay. 7 I went wrong somewhere. 7 3/4 and then 8 1/2. Okay, this is where I went wrong. I put 8 3/4. It should have been 8 1/2. So I kind of made a little boo-boo there, but it probably won't even, no one will probably even notice. All right, so coming in here, we're going to go ahead and burnish these score lines. And it does feel a little differently when you are adding DSP so I'm not sure if I'm going to love this or not. Maybe I will skip the layer next time because it is kind of feeling a little bulky. All right, so here we go. I thought I would love it, but sometimes you don't love something as much as you think. So you can kind of see a little bit of the line there, and it isn't laying super well. So I kind of feel like this was kind of a bad idea on my part. But anyway, we will see how I like it in the end. Oh, it's really pretty though. Okay, so you can see how this, if it's directional, would be a problem because this side will look upside down or this side will look upside down. Now, I kind of feel like this side looks upside down a little bit, but this paper isn't too bad that way. All right, so the next thing is to do a little bit of stamping. I have a scrap here, and I actually used the heavy Whisper White, but regular would work just as well. So what I did is kind of position it a little bit more to the right side, and then I will show you the ovals that I used. These are the layering oval framelits, and the one I used was this one. So what I did was I positioned it so I have space here. And then I die cut out a little oval with, this is the Grapefruit Grove. So there, that's what we have. And of course I already did that with die cutting because I didn't want to bring in my whole big shot. In addition to everything else, it just felt like it would be just too much. All right, so I will keep going. We have a little rose here from the Petal palette set, which is a beautiful set that is a carryover from last year's Occasions catalog, which I'm so glad. It just has a lot of gorgeous sentiments and these beautiful roses, of course. And I love gardening and flowers, so this is definitely a set right up my alley. So I'm just coloring a little bit here. I'm adding a little bit of the darker blend. This is Old Olive. And then I'm gonna come in and well actually, maybe I'll quickly do this one. So with the blunt tip, I'm going to add some darker points. So I'm just following a little bit. This set is really forgiving and makes it look really easy to use the blends. The blends make it super easy, but the set also, the way the lines are, you don't have to do a fantastic job with coloring and still have a really beautiful result. All right, so almost done here. You can see this goes very quickly with coloring with this particular set. So that's it. And next, we're just gonna go ahead and adhere it. Now, I thought it might be kind of cool to put this upside down. I don't know if you like that kind of look. It's a little bit, what would you say, artistic? And where did I put, oh, here's my liquid glue. I know I used it. So it couldn't be missing. All right, so just come in here and just place it wherever you want, pretty much. Because I allowed room, there is plenty of place to put it. All right, so I cut out these branches from this set, and these branches are just beautiful. This is with Old Olive, but they are a little big. So what I'm going to do is only keep the one part. So I'm just gonna snip this part off. I know it's kind of sad, and snip this one off. And next, I'm going to just create these layers like this. And this is just, I'm doing this like kind of the quick and dirty version, and you'll see what I mean. All I'm gonna do is do kind of a dry layout. And if I like it, guess what? I keep it, of course, and I just add the glue. So I think just a tiny bit more like that. And so what I'm gonna do, and I did try this ahead of time, and it does work. Just try to keep it still and use a fair amount of your glue, kind of like that. And then you just plop your layer and just layer it together. So now we don't have to worry about gluing any little branches. And you could, at this point, adjust a little bit. But I kind of want this to be just kind of like a loose cascading type effect. So very artistic, I think. Now the first one I did like a little better, which I'll bring in. I kind of showed a little less, but they're both quite nice, I think. And you can just kind of see how that works. So I will bring in my pearls now. And if you would like to color your pearls, it's extremely simple. I like using the darker shade of whatever color that I want. And this is the Calypso Coral in the dark. And then I just add my little pearl wherever I want it to. Let's see. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and add it right there. And that is how it's done. All right, so bringing back in this, it's still kind of laying a little funky, but you know, we'll have to deal, right? Okay, so maybe if now let's see. which way do I want this? I think I want it to be this way, yes. All right, so bringing this back in, I'm going to go ahead, let's see which one. Do I want that one? Yeah, you know, I do like that, how it goes a little more to the outside, because look at this one. When I do this, it's only on this part and kind of getting lost a little. So if I do it this way, it's actually pretty cool. All right, so it worked out after all. I thought I wasn't going to like it, but sometimes, you know, you kind of change your mind. At least I do anyhow. All right, so tear and tape again, and we're only going to adhere the top part, and then we will add some glue dots, or a glue dot. So I just got to make sure I know which is the top, okay? So we're just going to add some tear and tape up here, and we will be done with this soon. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll give it a try, because it is a nice way to present cards, because it's a gift within a gift, sort of. All right, so, well, I think I will actually go ahead and bring in my dimensional now. We're just going to go for broke here. You could do this sort of as a second part. But my thought here with using the glue dot instead of just adding tear and tape there is that if someone tries to rip it open, it will give this way in kind of an intentional sort of manner. So here we go. I'm just going to try to center this as best I can. In camera it's a little hard. I think that looks pretty good. And then push down. And it did catch the glue dot. So I think that's really pretty. What do you think? If you like this tutorial and would like to continue to see more of my videos, please consider subscribing. Also, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to tap the bell for notifications. I will go ahead and bring back my other card. If there are any products you would like to order, please email me at meonce3@gmail.com, and I'll give you a hostess code. Really appreciate you taking a little time. I guess I would have to add a couple more glue dots here. That just kind of popped open, but this one only had one glue dot, but because of the lighter weight, it definitely worked a little better that way. Anyhow, thanks again for watching, and happy stamping.